Well, it's 12.
Where do you live?
Uh-huh. It's 12.
What area of town do you live in?
Now remember, Saul is chosen. All right. Saul,
We usually just get fire.
Saul has been chosen as the king of Israel. What does Saul's name mean? What's Saul's name mean?
He was asked for.
What asked for? All right. It comes from the same Hebrew root as Sheol, the place asked about. All right. Sheol and quiver. Remember that? All right. What's the difference between Sheol and quiver?
A quiver is a grave that can be dug, and a Sheol is a pit.
All right.
And like a Hades is a Sheol.
That's the quiver right there.
Yeah.
All right. Now that is it's a grave. Now, Sheol is the place of departed spirits. It is not a grave. All right. The people that believe, they try to make Sheol and quiver the same thing. They're all the grave and hell are the same thing. They're not, or the grave. Sheol is a place of departed spirits. Quiver is a grave where you deposit a dead body. Now, a person is triune in nature just like God is triune. I'm not saying there's three gods either. That's a bunch of baloney. There aren't three gods. There's one God. The Lord our God is how many gods? One. All right. But we know Him, and God has revealed us to Himself as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But there aren't three of them. I'm telling you. How many of you are there, Brother Luis? Just one. But you have three that make you up. All right? Without the Son, there is no God. Without the Father, there is no God. And without the Holy Spirit, there isn't a God. Okay? That's it. Because it's there. It's what we call triune. Not Trinity. I don't even like the word Trinity. I like the word triune. All right? Because God made you in His image, didn't He? All right? When you die, your body goes to the quiver. And your spirit goes to Sheol. All right? Simple as that. And we all got this because we went to the name Saul, the one asked for. All right? What's the equivalent of Sheol in the New Testament? In Greek. What's the equivalent?
Hades.
What is it?
Hades.
Hades, yeah.
All right, Hades. All right, Hades.
That's why I said that. Okay, Hades.
Hades in the New Testament Greek. What is the term in Greek for grave? Our word memorial service comes from.
Memor.
Menamion.
Menamion.
Menamion. All right, menamion. So we see these things in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And it's very important because they're different. Okay? Now let's go back to the book of 1 Samuel. And we're going to recap a little bit. In the 11th chapter of 1 Samuel, it said the spirit of 11 and verse 6. Brother Luis. 1 Samuel 11 and verse 6. Could you read that for me in that translation? His translation, by the way, is the what's the name of that thing? Sacred Name Bible. Because it uses the real names of God. Okay? And if you want to look at the names of God or the titles of Jehovah, by the way, Jesus fulfilled all the Jehovah titles. Because He is Jehovah. Okay? He fulfilled them. If you want to look about the Jehovah titles, you can go to discovertheword.com and it says the names of God down there. Now we've got a very important verse right here because it tells about this. All right? 11 and verse 6. What's it say there?
And the spirit of Elohim came suddenly upon Saul when he heard these words.
All right. The spirit of Elohim. Spirit Elohim came upon him. Jesus. Now, Spirit God is the one in Genesis 1 and 2 that hovered over. Spirit Ruah Elohim. Spirit God is the one that went over there and hovered over or suffered over or mourned over the faces of the deep, it says, because it had been destroyed. Okay? Now, Spirit God is the one that deals with your heart when God wants to save you. If God deals with your heart and convicts you of sin, righteousness, and judgment to come, do not shun Him, because that is God. You're messing with God. And if God is dealing with you, anything in your life, whether it's sin, righteous, whether it's something to prohibit you of something, don't say no to him. You're saying no to God. Why did Ananias and Sapphira get killed? Those church members over there in the book of Acts. They lied to Spirit God. All right? And Spirit God is God. All right? Brother Brett.
Is that why there's so many name changes in the Bible?
I couldn't hear
Is
you.
that why there's so many name changes in the Bible? Like you said, like his name meant something for a spirit
Well,
God.
names of everyone in the Bible mean something.
Right,
They
like
all mean something. But Spirit God, we have the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All right? Those three talks about, when it talks about who created all things,
God.
Jehovah.
Jehovah.
And who is that? Jehovah means what? He who shall become. John 1:14, what does it say? And the Word, the Jehovah, flesh he became and dwelt among us. So, in Colossians, the first chapter, who created the heavens and the earth? Jehovah, which is Jesus. He's the one that put it in all. He is the physical expression of God, like your body is a physical expression of you. All right? We know each other. Now, when we die and go to heaven, we're going to know each other. All right? Even in hell, they know each other. All right? Even today, they have a physical expression that evidently is left over from the body. Okay, I don't know how they do that, but you know, you go to Luke the 16th chapter, and we have a historical event there of what happened to a man that went to hell named Dives. All right, the story of Dives. Okay, and we have a man that lived. His name was what? Lazarus. That's not Jesus' friend, Lazarus, but this is another Lazarus, all right? And this Lazarus was a very poor person. The Lazarus that Jesus knew, that Mary and Martha, they were rich. Did you know that? They were pretty wealthy, all right? They owned the home and everything else over there and near... what is it? Bethany. I couldn't think of the name. Bethany. I got Beth there. Bethany, all right, and which is not very far from Jerusalem. All right, and Lazarus, when he died, they put him in a grave. I've been to Lazarus' tomb, by the way. He actually lived there, and they had a tomb. Only rich people could afford a tomb. Otherwise, you went out there and dug a hole in the ground. A tomb was dug out. These are both quivers, all right. They dug it out of a hillside, out of rock, and he was buried in a tomb. All right, in a cave tomb.
That's a queer too?
But that's not the same Lazarus. That's now that Lazarus really lived. That's in the 16th chapter of Luke, okay? I know that a lot, even in some Bibles, they say it's a parable. This is not a parable. It's not a parable. That's a historical story, okay? There's a difference between a parable. Parable is a made-up thing to teach some truth, okay? A historical event like Lazarus and Dives, these people existed, okay? And Dives, the rich man, he had how many brothers? How many brothers did he have? 5. He really had 5 brothers. And when he died, he was dead. His body was in a quiver. His spirit was in Sheol. All right, the place of departed spirits. And did he know the people around? He could even look over there in the paradise side and saw Abraham over there. And he hollered over to Abraham.
He was
Abraham.
conscious.
Huh?
He was conscious.
Yes, he was conscious. He wasn't asleep. He was conscious. And he was in torments, and he was worried about the people that he left behind. Because he knew that he had made a mistake with his whole life. He said, I have 5 brothers. Somebody go back from the dead and warn them. Well, somebody did go back from the dead, didn't he? Lazarus went back from the dead. The one Jesus did. Because he said, Lazarus, come forth. And he come out of that tomb, and he had been dead. He had been in the place of departed spirits. His body was rotting in that tomb.
So a tomb can be a quiver, right? A quiver.
Quiver is a tomb.
Okay, it can be. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a grave dug.
It's either a grave or a tomb.
Okay.
One or the other. It's something you can dig. Sheol, you don't see it.
Sheol, only a spirit can go to a Sheol.
Spirit, that's the spirit world.
That's like the Abraham, is that the bosom of Abraham or whatever?
Yeah, that's the spirit trail. That's what the old Indian used to call the spirit trail, all right? That's the spirit world, all right? Sheol, all right? He looked over there in Paradise side, and he asked him to send him, have Lazarus send him a drop of water off of his finger. He said, no, you made your decision already. That's it. Nothing. No, you don't go back. Well, then send somebody back. I can't get out of here. My brothers are going to come here. I don't want them to go here. Send somebody back. He said, if one came back, they would not believe. One came back, they did not believe. Matter of fact, more than one came back, didn't they? As far as we know, many graves were open when Jesus was raised from the dead. Many people, not only Lazarus, but many graves were open, and they walked around that. It's the resurrection. And not only that, Jesus was raised on a feast day. What feast was that? Jesus was raised on a feast day. Now the guy didn't even know about that in the film, okay? Because he jumped over that one. Jesus was raised on a feast day. What feast was it?
The first fruit?
Feast of First Fruits. That's it. You get A+. Feast of First Fruits. The Feast of First Fruits meant what? You went out and sowed the grain in the ground, and here come the first fruits, and the very first fruits came up. And the first fruits represent what?
Like a tithe?
Anastasia.
A resurrection. Okay.
All right. So Jesus was raised on the Feast of Resurrection on first fruits. Isn't that neat? Nothing just happened in the Bible. All of that whole tabernacle represented Christ. All right? The whole Old Testament. God wanted to dwell among His people. John 1:14, God dwelt among His people. All right? John 1:14 or 1:18 says He led Himself out of eternity into space and time in the person of Jesus Christ. And we beheld the only begotten God. God begat Himself. All right? Brought Himself into space and time so He could redeem His creation. So now we have the Spirit of God coming upon Saul there in 11 and verse 6, okay? Now, he prophesies, and some people agreed and some people did not agree. We find out Saul threatened him later on. Saul went and hid, didn't he? When they finally called him out to be king, he was very humble. And he hid among the stuff, it says in King James, among the storehouse. All right? All right, well, let's go on. We find out now they're going to go have a battle. And then Samuel addresses Israel. Okay? And he says to them in verse number 12 and verse number 14. Chapter 12 and verse number 14 now. We're kind of moving along. They've had wars here. Saul has led them. They finally accepted Saul as king. Some of them, sometimes they're still going to have rebellion. You know, Israel's a hard-headed people. Okay? And go back to verse number 12. And when you saw that Nahash, the king of the sons of Ammon, had come against you, you said to me, no, but a king shall reign over us, although the Lord your God is what? What's it say there, brother?
When Jehovah your Elohim was your
Jehovah
king.
your Elohim. Now listen. When Jehovah became flesh, was he supposed to be the literal king of Israel? That Star of Bethlehem, again, showed those Jews that were left in Babylon, some of them were magi, okay? And they studied the stars. They knew exactly when the Messiah was going to be born, and they wanted to go see God in the flesh, okay? And they went there. And then Herod, now just pay attention to this. I keep driving this across, but I want you to learn this. Herod was Esau's descendant. Now, we call Israel Jacob, okay? Because Israel is Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, all right? Now, we have Jacob and we have Esau. Which one is... Esau was the firstborn, wasn't he? But he was rejected by God, and God said several times in the Bible, Esau I what? Esau I hated, but Jacob I loved. Esau was an ungodly buzzard. Okay? Jacob was supposed to be his descendants were supposed to be the king of Israel. Okay? Isaac was still going to give Jacob or Esau the birthright. But Jacob tricked him. Okay? And he got the birthright. Still Esau's around. The devil has always been busy, hasn't he? The Lord founded his assembly. He called it out from the seashores of Galilee, and the devil founded hundreds of them since. You find in the early 17 and 1800s, there were so many cults founded in those years at that time, and all of them attacked the deity of Christ. That's what happened in the 17 and the 1800s. Okay? We see all of this. All the way through time, we see it. Church history. How many of you studied church history when I taught church history? Some of you did. We have a story of the conflict of the ages between God and the devil, between the Lord's truths and the heresy. All right? That's what it's all about. That's the whole story of the history of humanity. All right? In the Garden of Eden, we had that conflict, didn't we? Between whom?
Actually, Eve and the snake, I guess, or the serpent.
Well, no. Where was the first religious persecution in the Bible? In the book of Genesis, between Cain and Abel.
Oh, okay, you don't want that. Okay.
Abel was not the heir. Abel was not the heir. Cain was the heir. They said, Eve says, I have gotten a man, even Jehovah. They thought Jehovah was born already. She thought she got gotten. Cain means gotten. And then, of course, they had sinned. Now they're going to see the fruit of their sin because the first religious persecution takes place there. What happens? Cain kills Abel. Cain, when he kills Abel, then he loses his birthright. And so God replaces him with Zeth. Zeth means what?
Substitute.
Substitute. Isn't this beautiful? All these names mean something, okay? So now, here, on the throne of Israel is Herod. Herod is a descendant of Esau, not Jacob. How in the world did those Jews ever fall for that? The Jews. Jew means Judah. We got a term of it, okay? How did they ever fall for that? Because Herod built them a palace. They accepted him. He wasn't supposed to be on the throne. When the Magi came looking for Jesus, Jehovah that was supposed to have been born, they said, where's he going to be born? He asked the scribe, where's the Messiah supposed to be born? Well, Herod didn't know anything about him. What did they say? Where's the Messiah? Where's Jehovah going to be born?
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. So they went to Bethlehem.
But they had to consult with the priests and stuff who did the
Well, they
research.
got the scribes that wanted to know where the Old Testament said the Messiah was going to be born. At Bethlehem. Well, then go to Bethlehem. And when you find him, tell me, and I'll go worship him. He wanted to kill him. All right? All right. He says here, fear the Lord. Let's go on back now. Fear the Lord. Serve him. Listen to his voice. All right? Lord God is your king. Fear the Lord. Serve him. Listen to his voice. And not rebel against the commandment of who? Brother?
Jehovah.
Jehovah. Jesus, when he walked the earth, it says in my what? My what? My word. The word of Jehovah. Jesus said that he was Jehovah. He called the Old Testament his word. Because it was his word. These are his words, okay? What's it say in my word? All right. All right. If you will not listen to the voice of Jehovah, rebel against the commandment of Jehovah, then the hand of Jehovah will be against you as it was against your fathers. All right, am I saying that right, brother? That's what it says in every one of those things. Number 16 now. Even now take your stand and see the great thing which the Lord will do before your eyes. Verse number 17. Is not the wheat harvest today? All right, in the wheat harvest in Israel, by the way, you don't have any rain and thunder in that season. You don't. That's a dry time of year, the wheat harvest. That's like August in Bakersfield, okay? You're not going to have very many rains in August. No thunderstorms or anything like that normally. Is not wheat harvest today? I will call on the Lord Jehovah that he may send thunder and rain. Okay? Then you will know and see your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of the Jehovah by asking for yourselves a king. Jehovah was your king. Now Israel, when Jehovah came to the throne in Jerusalem, what did they do to him? What did Israel do to their king?
They killed him.
They murdered him on the cross of Calvary. That's what we call, they used the powers to be to kill their king. And they said, we have no king but who? Caesar.
Caesar.
And Pilate, which was evidently a just man, he wrote above Jesus, above his cross, all right, his cross. They wrote above his cross, what did they write?
King of the Jews.
King of the Jews, in Latin, and in Greek, and in Hebrew. The King of the Jews. And they went back to him, those Jews said, you go down there and you take that sign down. He said, no. No. You said that he said he was your king, and he was saying he was God. And why did Israel crucify Jesus? Why did he? What was their reason?
He was a threat to the high
Because he was a blasphemy, basically.
What?
Blasphemy.
He said that he was God.
Yeah.
He said he's God.
He was a threat to their sinning.
He was a threat to their religion because the king had come to take over his kingdom. I'm going to tell you what, when he rode into Jerusalem on that donkey, from that time on, Jesus was the king of Israel. And they didn't want him. All right, they did not want him. It says in verse number 17, Brother Rex, are you over there? 12 and 17, 1 Samuel 12 and 17? First Samuel 12 and 17. Are you there, Connie? 12, 17? Can you read?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It is not wheat harvest. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto the Lord. He shall send thunder and rain, that you may perceive and see that your wickedness is great, which ye have done in the sight of the Lord, in asking you a king.
All right. Jehovah was their king back then. And Jehovah came in the flesh to Israel. John 1:14. Over and over again. The Jehovah, flesh, he became and dwelt among us. He became their king. He came to them. The Magi on the Star of Bethlehem, all of that you saw the last 2 weeks. You saw how the stars lined up, what got their attention and everything else. Herod didn't know anything about it. That ungodly buzzard wasn't even in the right line. And then he was scared. And Israel should have shouted for joy. Jesus condemned the city of Jerusalem. He said, you should have known. You should have known. They did not know. They said that they knew the Scriptures, but they didn't know the Scriptures. They worshiped the Scriptures instead of worshiping their God when he came to them. Brett.
Well, I got a question that maybe that refers to this exactly.
Don't let me get off track.
All right. Well,
Okay, I'm going to stay on right now. All right, number 18, okay. So Samuel called who? Jehovah. And Jehovah sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared Jehovah and Samuel. All right, number 19. And all the people said to Samuel, pray for your servants to the Jehovah, your Elohim, so that we may not die. For we have added to all our sins this evil by asking for ourselves what?
A king.
A king. And did Israel do it again?
Yeah.
They did it again. They said, Caesar is our king. Boy. All right. You must not turn aside, for you will go after futile things, which cannot profit or deliver because they are futile. Worthless, empty things, okay? For the Lord, Jehovah will not abandon his people. Did he? Even how ungodly they were, one thing, Jehovah, through the seed of the woman, Mary, Mary was just a woman, I'm telling you something. She was not something you bow down and worship today. She was not a god. She was not part God. All right? She was just a woman. And any woman in Israel could have had the Messiah. But God picked her. She was the seed of the woman. In Genesis 3:15, he said the seed of the woman would overcome Satan. And he did. He overcame Satan. God would become flesh. He would come down. The parables in the New Testament talked about the strong man. How do you overcome the strong man? You get into his territory. Did God come into man's territory? The territory of the devil, and he overcame him, didn't he? That's the story of the Bible. That's the conflict of the ages. The Lord will not abandon, Jehovah will not abandon his people on account of his great what? On his great what? Brother David, what's it say there in verse 22?
Namesake.
For his great name. God's honor. The word name means a monument, and it means honor. God will not abandon his people for his honor. Why? You know, God was going to destroy Israel when they came out of Egypt. And Moses said, don't do it, Lord, because then they won't, it will, when you destroy Israel, then what? You will destroy your name. Because 400 years have been waiting for you to come and get them. Now, if you kill all of them, you got some of them out there. If you kill them all, then all the promises are gone. God's promises. God was just using that what we call, this is a condescension. He allowed Moses to intercede for us to show us how the Lord intercedes for us. Jehovah intercedes for us to this day. For the Lord will not abandon his people because of his great name, because the Lord, Jehovah, has been pleased to make you a people for himself. All right? Number 23 now. Moreover, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against the Jehovah by ceasing to pray for you. I will instruct you in good and the right way. Only fear the Lord, only fear Jehovah, and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider what great things he has done for you. And just think about that. God has, even for you, even for me. This last week I found out I got asthma now. Not only all these other problems I got to deal with, now I got asthma to deal with. He said, you lived in this valley too long. Everybody's going to get asthma. You live here. Most everybody's got it. Well, that's the way it is. We live in the flesh, don't we? The flesh is our adversary, isn't it? Your flesh is adversary. But God gives you time. God gives you time to serve, and God gives you time to repent. I was over there preaching at Fairfax Baptist Church here a while back, and there's an old guy in there that was saved when he was 83 years old. I said, God had mercy on you for 83 years because he didn't kill you. He gave you time to repent. How many people you know 60 and 70 years old that get saved? That's a grace. That's by a gift of God. Lets you live that long life. Just one more day to be saved and come to the Lord.
That's grace.
What? That's grace. By grace are you saved. Ephesians 2 and 7 and 8. What does it say in there?
By grace you are saved.
For in grace you are having been saved through faith, and that not of yourself. It is a what? A gift of God. A gift of God. All right. Number 25. Number 12 and verse 25. 12 and verse 25. 1 Samuel 12 and 25. John, how fast can you get there?
Not very fast.
Oh, I thought you got there already. 1 Samuel 12, 25.
Yeah, you're right. But if you still do wickedly, you should be swept away, both you and your king.
All right. If you do wickedly, you and your king are going to be swept away. And that happened how many times? Over and over and over again. Now 13 and verse 1, Sister Andino. 13 and verse 1.
Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel. Did I continue?
Yes.
Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel. 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash,
Mishmash.
and in the mountains of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah.
Gibeah?
of Benjamin. The rest of the people he sent away, every man to his tent.
All right. Number 3, it says, Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew the trumpet throughout the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. All right. All Israel heard the news that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and also that Israel had become odious to the Philistines. Odious, what in the world that mean?
My Bible said abomination.
To the Philistines. In other words, Israel began to overcome the Philistines. They had, remember now, the whole book of Judges, it talks about the book of Judges. Israel would sin, God would raise up a judge to judge the Philistines, basically, and overcome them and give them relief, all right, when they turn. So now God has raised up Saul and Samuel, all right, to bring forth. Who finally overcome them all?
David?
David. All right. All right. Now the Philistines assembled to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people like the sand, which is on the seashore in abundance, and they came up and camped at Mishmash and Beth-Haven. All right? And when the men of Israel saw that they were in a what? Have you ever been in a strait before? You know what a strait is? That's between a hard place and a rock, you know. That's a tight spot. Okay? A tight spot. The people were hard pressed, and the people hid themselves in what? What happened to the Lord their God? They didn't trust Him again, did they? Again, they didn't trust the Lord. Hid themselves in caves, and in thickets, and in cliffs, and in cellars, basements, and in... Do you know what that word pit there means? Outhouses. That's right.
What are thickets?
Thickets, brambles, you know, like up in the mountains, some of the animals, little birds and stuff, they'll get in a thicket because there's thorns all around. Nobody's going to go in there. They hide in the thorns, in the briar patch. Okay? Briar rabbit, remember that story about Briar Rabbit? He hid in the briar patch. Okay? Because nothing else could go get him in there. That's why I was in the briar patch. And they got in the briar patch. And hide. And the outhouses. The cesspools. They were scared. And then some of the Hebrews crossed over Jordan into the land of Gad and Gilead. But as for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him. How? Trembling. Boy, scared bunch of rabbits. All right? What do you think about this, Joseph? Bunch of scared people, huh? And they have Jehovah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, on their side. If you got Jehovah on your side, you don't have to worry. Number 9. So Saul said, bring me the burnt offering and the peace offering, and he offered the burnt offering. Uh-oh.
He didn't have no authority to
He had no
do that.
authority to do that. Now, like these bunch of outlaw cultists, they had no authority to start churches. God's church was in the land. He had no authority to do this. And it came about as soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, that behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him and greet him. And Samuel said, what have you done? This was Saul's great mistake. This was the end of Saul right there. Saul overstepped his boundaries. This was the end of his career, right there. Once the sons of Aaron offered strange fire, that's Oklahoma for fire, you know, fire. Strange fire, all right, in that tabernacle there. When they offered strange fire, all right, what happened to them? God killed them. That should have been an example. Yeah, brother.
Didn't they go into the Holy of Holies from the throne?
They didn't get that far. God killed them right here. God killed them right out here before they ever got in there. All right, He killed them. Okay, where did I end up here? I go, guys?
Probably 10.
Number 10? All right. And it came about as soon as he finished offering, burnt offering, Samuel came. Saul went out to meet him. Therefore I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not asked for the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself. And offered the burnt offering. Forced himself. He knew better, didn't he? Even he tells Samuel he knew better. Samuel was the priest, not him. And Samuel said to Saul, you have acted what? Brilliantly. What's it say there?
Foolish.
Foolishly. That word is worse than foolish. That means to be in a reprobate manner. What in a reprobate manner, what does that mean?
That's like,
What does reprobate mean?
seems like it means you take back something, or you can't be good
Reprobate.
on something. Like you,
Somebody that knowing the truth,
Probably won't be redeemed.
What's that, brother?
knowing the truth and doing the opposite.
Rejecting the truth.
there you go, yeah. It's like a contract. I know it's a contract.
It is rejecting. It's denying the truth, denying biblical facts. Denying truth and denying biblical facts. He did it. And you know what's going to cost him? What happened to Aaron's son? Fire from Jehovah went out and killed him. Now he's going to use an arrow to kill him later. Arrow. All right? An arrow is just going to be shot into the air. Remember the Hiawatha business? What was that poem about Hiawatha? He shot an arrow. There was a man back there that shot an arrow, and God guided the arrow. And where did he go? It went to Saul, and it went between his armor, right in the right place, and killed him. Or he began the process of dying. Dying, you shall die. The most in Hebrew. Dying, you shall die. Right? Dying, you shall die.
And he finished himself off by falling on his sword, didn't
Yeah, that's right. And Samuel said to Saul, you have acted in a reprobate manner. You have not kept the commandment or the edicts of the Lord, of Jehovah your God, which he commanded you. Now Jehovah would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. Right off the bat now. Now Jessica, are you there? What is your
What verse?
what 13 and verse number 14.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
You acted foolishly, Samuel said. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. Or
All right.
Jehovah's command,
That's it.
sorry.
That's it. Now the Lord is going to seek a man after his heart. And what was his name? David. Already Saul's head is on the chopping block. And he knows it. All right. Then Samuel arose and went out to Gilgal to Gibeah and Benjamin, and Saul numbered the people. That's another sin. He still numbered the people for war. He wanted to know how many people he had. If you got Jehovah on your side, it don't matter if you got one. You're in the majority of people. Still, he was trusting in his own abilities and not God's power. Okay? He had with him about 600 men. Saul and his son Jonathan and the people who were present with them were staying in Geba of Benjamin while the Philistines camped at Michmash. And the raiders came from the camp of the Philistines, 3 companies. One company toward Ophrah and the land of Shual, and another company toward Beth Horon, and another company toward the border in verse number 18, which overlooks the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. And Brother John, number 19.
Now there was no blacksmith to be found throughout all the land of Israel. For the Philistines said, Least the Hebrew make swords or spears.
All right, hold on right there. All right, hold on right there. There was no what? What is a blacksmith?
Someone pounds gold. Or pounds
Everybody, do you know anybody named Smith?
Huh?
You know people named Smith? Very common name. You know where they got the name Smith? That's an English name.
Metal, right?
What's the name Smith mean?
He's a worker, doesn't it? All
Smith
different
means a
kinds-
blacksmith.
Or a wood.
It means a blacksmith. That's what the word smith means. A smithy was somebody that owned, when you had a smithy shop, a blacksmith shop. They used to be downtown Bakersfield, not too far. Now there's a big church in that building, but it used to be Strelich's stadium down there. They used to have wrestling matches.
Strongbow?
Okay, at one time.
Strongbow Stadium?
What?
You mean Strongbow Stadium?
I don't want to call it that. It's
Yeah,
Strelich.
Strongbow City.
It's Strelich Stadium is what it used to be. Steve Strelich owned it. Steve and what was it, brother? John Strelich. They owned that, and they had a gym in there and everything else. My father went down there and was a boxer. And her brother, your uncle was a wrestler, and a wrestler and a boxer. And then my friend Sherman Phillips was a wrestler and a boxer. Right? And that was a big deal 50 years ago, okay? 60, 70 years ago. All right, long time ago. It was a health club. But anyway, let's get back. Smith. A smith was a blacksmith, all right? Down next to that place was the old Bakersfield blacksmith shop. Had great big anvils and everything in there, and that's where they did. At one time, you didn't have welders. Did you know that? In the early days of the oil fields, they didn't have welders, they had blacksmiths. Okay? Blacksmiths. They had to heat metal up so hot, and they took, how many of you have been off the U.S. borax? How many of you ever had borax on? You know what flux is?
Yeah.
All right, they used to use borax, and they get metal hot, dip it in borax, and then pound it together, and that's how you amalgamated the metal. You put it together.
Flux.
Yeah, it was a
Borax
flux.
is a flux.
Yeah, borax is a flux, and you would take it, heat it up, and then put it on the anvil and beat it hard while it was still hot, and it would become one piece of metal. There was no blacksmiths in Israel. Okay, no blacksmiths in Israel. Didn't have any. The Philistines were, they had to go to the Philistines to get their axes sharpened, their plows, and their hoes and all of that stuff. They had to go there because there were no blacksmith in Israel, all right? So all Israel went down to the Philistines each to sharpen his plowshare, his mattock, his axe, and his goad. All right, a goad was a stick that they used to poke the oxes with when they wanted them to go this way or that way, and it had a metal point on it, right? And that's a term that God used in Acts, in the book of Acts, against Saul, which became Paul. All right. He said, "How long will you kick against the goads?" That's the word right there. The sharpened point. How long? What happened is they would take and they would stick the cow right here in his leg right there. They would stick him in this to make him get along. If he would kick, what happened? He would poke himself and injure himself if he kicked. If he went on, he was all right. But if he kicked and how many people are kicking against the goads? You kick against the goad, you're going to injure yourself. You just better mind. When God pokes your heart with His Word and with His Spirit, you better give in, or it's going to injure you. All right? His goad. All right? And then verse number 21, Brother John.
And the charge for a sharpening was a pim for the plowshares, the mattocks, the forks, and the axes, and set the points of the goads. So it came about on the day of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan, but they were found with Saul and Jonathan his son.
All right, now what were they using as battle weapons?
Spear?
Huh?
Spear?
What did David use?
Sword?
Slingshot.
Slingshots
Oh, you're my just
and arrows.
He had a sword too.
Whose sword was it?
Goliath?
Goliath's sword. What was Goliath?
Giant?
What was Goliath? He was a Nephilim, all right, but what was he? A Philistine, all right. Where Where did he get his sword? From the Philistine Goliath. All right, so David went out against Goliath, which was a Philistine. Philistine had spears and swords. So here we have sharpened sticks, and we have slingshots and arrows. That's what Israel, and they got swords. This is what we call, but they had God on their side. So they didn't need a sword. All right, God's going to be their sword. In the book of Revelation, Jesus says he stands there with what? In his mouth is what?
Sword.
A double-edged sword. All right. You're learning some stuff today, little bits and pieces of the Bible. Just a little bit up there. They didn't have any swords in Israel. They had sharp sticks. Okay? They didn't need anything because they had the Lord. They had Jehovah anyway. So the garrisons of the Philistines went out to pass over Michmash. And now on that day Jonathan the son of Saul said to the young man who was carrying his armor, "Come and let us cross over the Philistines' garrison that is on yonder side, on the other side." But he did not tell his father. He didn't tell his father what he was going to do because Jonathan was going out. And by the way, who's Jonathan? It's Saul's son, but this is the best friend of David. They, in the Indian terms, this would be his blood brother. Okay, I mean, this is his brother by choice. That's David's brother by choice. Okay? Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah under the pomegranate tree, which is in Migron, and the people who were with him were about 600. Now it all comes down here. All right? And in verse number 3, and Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, and Ichabod's brother, and the son of Phinehas, and the son of Eli, the priest of the Lord at Shiloh, was wearing an ephod, and the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. And between the passes by which Jonathan sought to cross over the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp crag on one side and a sharp crag on the other side, and the name of the one was Bezez, and the name of the other was Sinai. And the one crag rose up to the north side of Michmash, and the other toward Gibeah. And number 6 is a pretty important verse there. Brother John.
Then Jonathan said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few."
All right, now, this boy's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. I think this boy's saved. Do you think so, Sister Andy? I think he's a saved boy. No. Now, who's he trusting to win the battle? Lord. Not a bunch of men. The Lord's going to do it. Without even modern warfare tools. No modern tools of warfare. And he's going to go out. Number 7, he takes his armor bearer and says to him, "Do all that is in your heart. Turn yourself, and here I am with you according to your desire." And Jonathan said, "Behold, we will cross over to the men and reveal ourselves to them. And if they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand in our place and not go to them. But if they say, 'Come on to us,' then we will go up, for the Lord has given them into our hand." He's trusting God, isn't he, Brother Bill?
A lot of faith.
A lot of faith. That's what it takes. Read that verse number 10.
But if they say thus, "Come up to us," then we will go up. For the Lord has delivered them into our hands, and this will be a sign to us.
All right, now he's just trusting God to lead his every footstep, isn't he? That's what he's doing. He's trusting God to lead his every footstep. And when both of them revealed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines, the Philistines said, "Behold, the Hebrews are coming up out of the holes, out of the cesspools." That's what he's talking about, out of the cesspools. They come up where they have hidden themselves. They're out of the outhouses now. They're coming up. So the men of the garrisons hailed Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, "Come up to us, and we will tell you something." And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come up after me, for the Lord has given them into the hands of Israel." Here we have. Brother Mike, number 13.
Then Jonathan climbed up on his hands and feet with his armor bearer behind him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer put some to death after them.
Go ahead.
And the first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men within about half a furrow in an acre of land.
Oh, now there's what you call him laying them to waste, isn't he? He's laying them to waste. All right. Brother Rex, are you over there?
15.
Yeah.
And there was a trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. Even the garrison and the raiders trembled, and the earth quaked, so that it became a great trembling.
All right. Number 16 now. Number 16. Connie, you over there?
And the watchmen of Saul in Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away, and they went on beating down one another.
All right. They just kept on just laying them to waste. All right. Laying them to waste. Jessica, are you over there on number 17?
Yeah. Then Saul said to the men who were with him, muster the forces and see who has left us. When they did, it was Jonathan and his armor bearer who were not there.
All right. Jonathan and his armor bearer who were not there. Number 18, Brother David.
And Saul said to Ahijah, bring the ark of God here, for at that time the ark of God was with the children of Israel.
Well, here we go now. Saul wants good luck charms wherever he goes now. He's got to have a rabbit's foot. He's got to have something. David is going out there and he's fighting his battles for him. I mean, not David, but Jonathan is fighting his battles for him, trusting in the Lord. And Saul, even though he was 6 or 10 inches taller than everybody else, he's a coward. And he's carrying it with him. Everything he does is a cowardly way. All right. So they take the ark. All right. And number 18, and Saul said to Abijah, bring the ark out here, of God out here, for the ark of God at that time was with the sons of Israel. And it happened that while Saul was talking to the priest, that the commotion in the camp of the Philistines continued and increased. So Saul said to the priest, withdraw your hand. So Saul and all the people that were with him rallied and came to the battle, and behold, every man's sword was against his fellow, and there was a great confusion. Now the Hebrews who were with the Philistines previously went up with them all around the camp. Even also they turned to be with the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the men of Israel who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Edom heard the Philistines had fled, they also pursued them closely in battle. And how did this happen? It wasn't anything to do with Saul, was it? It's what Jonathan had done. And of course Saul thinks he's doing a great job, but not him that's doing the battle, winning the battle at all. So the Lord delivered Israel that day, and the battle spread beyond Beth-aven. All right. Well, there's where we're going to quit until next week, right there. All right? Right there. 14 and verse 24. And we'll start on from there. Now, we're skipping over some things. Now, remember how many books are we studying here at the same time? All right, Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. So you can go in and fill in between those deals. And the 4 Gospels in the New Testament are like these books. Actually, the 3 Gospels, one of them is called not a synoptic. What does the word synoptic mean? Synoptic.
Overview.
Synoptic. Optic is eye. Okay. Seen together. See together. Synoptics means you see the same thing. The book of Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles are all synoptics. You're seeing the same story by all of these different places. Now, how many books have we studied all together when we finish these? 12. All right.
So the 4 Gospels also are synoptic.
Well, 3 of them, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are synoptics. John is kind of by itself. They don't. It's things that happen in John, but John looks at Jesus as what? It's a separate book. God, they had Matthew, Mark, and Luke to begin with, and then John said that God impressed upon his heart that he needed to write a gospel. Why did he write his gospel? Why did John write his gospel? It didn't mean to go along with the other 3 synoptics. Why did John write his gospel?
To show that Jesus was
That Jesus was God in the flesh. That's the whole purpose of the Gospel of John. To prove that Jesus was God in the flesh. That's the whole purpose. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, the book of Revelation, all of them have the same theme. God in the flesh. All right, that was his theme. He wanted them to know without a shadow of a doubt that God was in flesh, in the person of Jesus. All right, he had come to redeem his people. All right, so John is not really a synoptic in the four Gospels. He has a specific story to tell that God is in flesh. The other three go together, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Now, Judges, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles are all synoptics. We're seeing things together. All right? So we're studying, really we're only studying Samuel, but we're going through all the books at the same time. So you read them all. That's a lot of homework, isn't it? All right. What? Now David is not here today. David, you need to pray for David Bratcher because he's sick. All right. Bonnie's been sick, and then he got sick. So, all right. Brett.
Okay, we gotta pray for Dave. Pray
Come
for...
to the front, Brett.
Okay, that's all.
Come up here now. We're gonna put you up here on the spot.
What do you mean, sitting down there?
Brett, do your job.
We're gonna train you good.
He's nervous, ain't he?
Oh, he's not nervous.